Let's learn about variables in Python. Go to collab.research.google.com, click on the new notebook option, go ahead and title it variables. Variables are very useful because what they are going to do for you is they're going to give you the opportunity to refer back to data that you have previously stored. We're going to start by looking at how we would do this in math. And so in math, you may say x equals 3. Okay, well, this will also work in Python, but the value 3 is not assigned to x until you run that code. So go ahead and run the code by pressing Shift-Enter, and then you can check it. You can check it by looking at the value of x, and there are some different ways to do this. One way is by pressing the print key. So you can put print with x inside, okay? Totally fine to print out variables. If you press Shift-Enter, you can see the value of 3. Now, special to Colab and some other coding environments, but not most, if you just put the variable last and you press Shift-Enter, it will actually give you the output of 3, okay? So that's kind of nice. What if we assign another variable? Let's say y equals 2. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and press Shift-Enter to store the value y is 2. And now we can even add them together. We can do like x plus y. And if we press Shift-Enter, you can see that it does give us the expected output of 5. Now we can update our variables. Okay, they could change. Like let's say I want to assign now x to be 5. It doesn't matter what comes before. When you run that new line of code, it's simple. You're giving the value 5 to the variable x. So press Shift-Enter and you're okay. Now something that you cannot do, which you can do in math, is left to right. So let's say I want to assign the variable 7 to x. 7 equals x, right? Equals is equals. Press Shift-Enter and you get an error, okay? Now, when you get errors, there are a lot of things you can do. It's often good to look at the last line. Sometimes the caret's pointing to the error. In this particular case, I'm just going to give you the instruction that in Python, variable assignment must be left to right. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Variable assignment must be left to right. Here, the variable is put to the left. 7 is a value. It's not a variable, and so this is not going to work. So simply to fix this, you need to rewrite it as x equals 7. And now if you press Shift-Enter, no error. It's common to actually iterate, like you might want to count things, okay? Let me show you how this could work. First of all, assigning the variable as x is not that interesting. Like count, okay, you're going to count things. And maybe you count with 1. But now you're going to update your count, okay? And so you want to assign the count to be equal to what the previous value was plus 1. Okay, this is interesting and totally not allowed in math. So this is normal variable assignment on the first line, but look at this second line. This is like a circular definition. Doesn't work in math. Why does it work in Python? Because in Python, variable assignment is left to right. And so that's going to work as follows. Okay, you're reassigning count, fine. What's it going to be equal to? Okay, the variable count, which has a value of 1. So it's going to put the 1 in there, add 1, and we should get 2. Now let's check it. We can print out the count, and you can see that it does update to 2, okay? Now, this counting is so common in programming. You can think of a lot of use cases, right? Maybe you want to count the number of times someone is up at bat, and there's data. Well, you want to count it. And so there's a shorthand for it, which is count plus equals 1, okay? That is exactly this line of code up here before it. It basically reassigns count by adding 1 to the previous count. And again, we can print it out and check to see, does that update it as expected? It does to 3. This plus equals syntax can be used in other ways. You could do like count minus equals 1, and you could think about what count goes back down to. I can just show it by typing count. I don't have to use print here. And you can see it goes back down to 2. So updating variables is really cool. Let's go over the syntax for naming variables. Let's say you want to name the first prime. Well, the first prime is 2. You might try this. First prime equals 2. Okay? Now we've got some underlines. Collab's getting very good at underlining errors. Okay, well, let's just run it and see what happens. You can see it's invalid. Now, just like you can't assign it to be a number 1, you actually cannot start your variable naming with the number 1, okay? So I just always start it with a letter. If you always do that, you will never go wrong. Some special characters are allowed, but it's simple just to use letters. Okay, so let's try this again. I've written first prime equals 2. I got another error. And this is sort of interesting. It says invalid syntax. Syntax is sort of like the grammar of Python. And so basically you have first, that's fine. Then you have a space and you have some more words. And Python doesn't understand what to do here because when you hit that space, you're breaking the variable. So the way that you connect them in Python, the standard is to use an underscore. Okay, now you've got first prime equals 2, press shift enter, and it does in fact work. So that is standard in Python. Another fun thing you can do to assign 2 variables at once, let's say you want to assign num1 and num2, you can do it with a comma. Pretty cool. This would be considered Pythonic. And maybe our first 2 numbers in this case are 20 and 21. Okay, does that really work? It's kind of unusual. Let's press shift enter. So no errors. And so the idea here is that this comma separation, it should work. And so num1 should be equal to 20. Well, let's check it. It does give us a value of 20, and num2, let's check it. It does give us a value of 21. Okay, so this is really nice. Now, if you want to know about variables that were previously assigned, you can always use the type function to check it, right? So we assign x up there, and maybe we forget what type was x. Okay, x was an integer. Okay, int is the type. Well, what if you need it to be a float? Okay, you can actually do type conversion by using the keyword of the type, which in this case is float. Okay, and so this is going to convert x into a float. If you press shift enter, you can see it shows you the conversion to 7.0. Okay, let's now type in x, see what the value for x is. Well, wait a minute, it's 7. What's going on? Okay, this float of x, it actually did what it was supposed to. It gives 7.0. But if you want to save x as a float, you actually need to reassign it, and that's going to be x equals the float of x. Okay, and so now if we check x again, after reassigning it to a float, you can see that you do get the value of 7.0. And certainly if you want to convert it back to an int, and maybe you want to save it as something like the integer part of x, okay, or x as an integer, what you name your variables is ultimately up to you. And again, this time let's use the classic print and see if we get 7 or 7.0. Well, int x has now been stored as 7. Okay, so that's a lot of variable assignment. Variable assignments are going to be what you usually do when you're coding, because except for special cases like using calculators, or you do just want an immediate output, it's more common in code that you want to carry things forward when you're writing code.